Okay, welcome to our Training Tuesday. Today is February 6th, 2024, and welcome Steve Kent for the credit card scam. Steve, I'm always interested to hear what you have to say, so I'm just going to let you take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate the opportunity. So we have all heard, I would hope at this point, of what credit cards are. Some people have them, some people don't. And the reason that this is so important to me is I watched my father back in the 60s when credit cards really started to take hold. And he was always a cash person. And when credit cards came in, he didn't know what to do. Should he take a credit card? Shouldn't he take a credit card? And his decision was made when one weekend my parents went away on just a quick trip upstate New York. And when they finished their vacation, they went to pay the bill. The person behind the desk said, "Your credit card, sir." And he said, "I don't have a credit card." And that caused all kinds of issues. This was back in the 60s. So he obviously got a credit card. But he was of the mindset that he was very careful in what he charged. And when he charged, he paid it off in full the next month. That was just his mentality. The other extreme to that is my sister, who has some credit cards and doesn't really know how to use them. Now, she learned, but for a long time, she would charge and maybe she'd make a payment, maybe she wouldn't. Not the greatest scenario. So, having seen both sides, I wanted to take what I learned from them, plus my own experiences, and educate everyone else on some of the things that credit card companies do that are not exactly the best. So this is what I call the credit card scam, and we'll explain that as we go through. So I asked the people in the group who are here, what do these things have in common that are in this list? Any
Steve,
thoughts?
or if you're
Yes.
trying to share your slides, we're not seeing them.
Oh, okay. So let's go back, share screen. Thank you for letting me know that. Let's go this way. All right. Thank you, Sam. All right. So oops, let's go back here. All right. Now, there we go. Let's try this again. Does anyone know what these things have in common that are on this list?
Their wants.
They are wants. Good answer. They're wants, their days, they're reasons that people use a card. So, what does this list have in common?
Scarcity.
Scarcity. Scarcity, it's also reasons why people use cards. Some of them are right, some of them are not. There is no right or wrong answer, but it's the reasons that people use cards, and sometimes it is scarcity. So let's try one more time. What does the things on this list have in common? Don't think too hard. What these things have in common are a sample of interest rates on credit cards. And yes, 32.99 is a rate that I saw recently for someone that needed a lot of help paying off a balance, and you can understand why. So the key is be aware of the interest rates your credit card is charging you and only use those cards if you really, really need to use them because you're going to be paying way too much interest. All right, so let's get into this a little bit. There are some credit card pros and credit card cons about having a credit card. The great side is it builds your credit. And so much in this world revolves around your credit, whether you can buy something or not, whether you can buy, and the interest rate that you're being charged is a big consideration based on your credit scores from the credit bureaus. It's convenience of not having cash. You can get rewards for free car rentals, free planes, not free planes, but free plane rides, free hotel nights. You can pay for things over time. You can do all kinds of things like online shopping, but only if you have a credit card. But the downside of credit cards is a lot of people overspend and have debt because of it. There are fraud issues. There are fees that people don't understand they're being charged unless you read the fine print. And most people do not. But once you sign the contract and you use that card, you are responsible for any fees and anything they want to charge you, and you really have no choice. If you don't pay your cards, you could have a short-term credit hit, which goes back to trying to buy something and being charged a higher rate because you have a credit problem. So that's some of the challenges. Again, if you use the cards wisely, there are no issues and those cons really go away. But again, everybody's different. This is just an information session here. So what this represents is credit card balances for the last 25 years. And as the economy gets bad, people tend to charge more because cash is short. As the economy gets better, people have more cash. They don't necessarily charge or they pay the balances off. But what this shows is in the last quarter or the last 2 quarters of 2023, for the first time ever, balances on credit cards topped $1 trillion. And in the first quarter of 24, they will continue to trend upward. The problem becomes when jobs are scarce, when salaries are being cut, and people don't have the money to even buy basic food, shelter, clothing, they're charging. And if you don't have the money to charge, the interest gets higher and higher, and it becomes more and more difficult to pay those balances down, let alone pay them off. This is a trend that's going in the wrong direction, as you can see. So there is something out there that I'm going to call the credit card process. And what this means is credit card companies typically start the process by targeting 18-year-olds in high school or first-year college. And what they do is they will send you a credit card application in the mail that says, "Hey, Joe, congratulations. You've been approved for X dollar credit limit on our credit card." And Joe thinks that's great. So he doesn't understand how it works, but he takes the card. He goes out and he charges. Now he has a $500 credit limit because that's what they'll give you in most cases to start. And he charges. The next month, what does he get in the mail? A bill. And he goes, "Oh my God, I have to pay for what I just charged." And after he calms down, he realizes he can pay the minimum balance of $20. So he pays the 20 and he loves it because he charged 500, only paid 20. The next month, he gets the next bill and again he owes $20 and he's happy. The third month, what happens? He gets another credit card in the mail. "Congratulations, you have great credit. Here's your second card, another $500. And he proceeds to charge $500 because he realizes he only has to pay $20. Now he's got $1,000 worth of charges. He's only paying $40 a month and he's happy. This process continues over and over until he has thousands of dollars in outstanding balances and can't pay them because he's paying minimum credit card balance. And if he continues to do that, as we'll see in a few minutes, it could take him quite a while to pay that off because he's paying so much in interest. That's the credit card process. Now, while they do target younger, they also go after senior citizens who may not be aware, and because they're on fixed incomes, they look at it as a way to live a little bit better, pay those bills, but they don't think about having to pay it off. And they get caught in that same trap. So that's what happens in what I call the credit card process. So the question and the example that I gave is, got a $500 credit card balance and I can pay the minimum payment. But do I pay the minimum or not? Now, the option here is not to pay zero. The option is, do I pay the minimum or more than the minimum? That's the option. So let's take a look at a couple of examples of what could happen to somebody. Here's a person who has a $6,125 balance at a 16.2% interest rate. His minimum payment is $100 a month, and if he pays that $100 a month, it will take him 131 months or 11 years to pay that off. But in that process, he's going to pay $6,900 of interest, which means he pays more in interest than he charged initially. This also assumes he does not charge anything else. That's what happens to this person. So now keep that in mind. $6,100 a month, 11 years. That same person pays, at the same interest rate, pays $83 a month. Now, instead of $131, I'm sorry, 131 months, it's taking him 417 months to pay that off. And the interest will be $28,000. That little bit, that $17 a month, is causing this person a significant amount of extra interest and a lot of anxiety. Not where you want to be, I would think. Next example says that same balance, but at a 29.99% interest rate. Now they pay $154, but because they're paying more, even with a higher rate, it's only taking them 208 months. Only 208 months, which is what? I don't know, 16, 17 years and $25,000 of interest. So again, two things that are coming into play here. One is the interest rate, and one is how much you pay every month. The last example, whoops, I'm sorry, that was the last example. My mistake. I guess I missed one in between. But as you can see, and my point of this is, pay things off as quickly as you can. Like my father, he was so intent on, I'm not paying interest to that credit card company. If I charge today, I'm going to pay it off as soon as the bill comes in. And that mindset I adopted. I have several credit cards, and every time I charge, I pay that off in full when the bill comes in. What that does is it keeps me from paying any interest. It also keeps my credit score high because it shows the companies that I can manage my debt. And to me, that's more important because I have other things that I can use for my money instead of paying interest to credit card companies. So if we accumulate all these balances, how do we pay them off? Because if I was paying something off in 11 years or 15 years or 30 years, I don't want to do that. I want to pay them off now. So what are my options to pay them off? One option says I can pay my credit cards off based on the minimum monthly due, which is all they're asking me for. There's a potential long payoff period. I'm going to be paying a lot of interest, as I showed. And the question is, will you even pay off the balance? Because depending on the balance and the interest rate and how much you pay, you may never pay that balance off. And that's a problem. The only way around this is to minimize or eliminate using your credit card so that you don't put any additional charges on, don't incur any additional interest charges, and then you can pay it off a little bit faster, paying less interest and raising your credit score. This is one option, but again, it's a very lengthy process. The other option, or the next option, is you can work with a credit card company and negotiate your debt. So if you have a large balance and have challenges for whatever those are, you could call up a credit card company and say, MasterCard, Visa, whoever, I'm having problems. Instead of paying nothing, I will pay you 20 cents on the dollar. If they agree, they will wipe out your debt once you pay the 20 cents on the dollar. However, that will significantly impact your credit score and impact your future purchases and interest rates. Because if you negotiated with MasterCard, Visa will not lend you any money on your credit card because they're afraid they're going to write that money off as well. So it will impact you down the road. Another option is to work with a third party to negotiate your debt. Now, what typically happens is they will pose it to you in a form that says, pay me, this third party, every month, whatever you were paying to the credit card company, and I will negotiate that debt for you. Now, because most people do not read the fine print, what that fine print says is everything you were going to pay the credit card company, this third party keeps for 6 months as their fees. In the meantime, nothing is paid to the credit card company, and you go from where you are today to being 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, and then 180 days past due. You're now in collections. At that point, this third party company negotiates for a lower payment. But what that did was it, again, destroyed your credit, you're delinquent, and future purchases and interest rates. Future purchases, first of all, will probably not happen. And if they do, the interest rates will be through the roof. Again, an option, but probably one that you really don't want to try because, again, it will hurt you. The last option is to work with a debt elimination company. What they do is they restructure how your debt is paid. So they take all your debt, which could be your credit card, your auto loan, your student loan, your mortgage. They take all that debt, put it into a bucket, and based on a mathematical formula, they figure out how much to pay each of those pieces of debt and when during the month. The reason they do that is they can figure out how to pay and minimize the amount of interest so that more goes to principal. The reason that happens is now your loans, your credit cards, and everything else are paid off faster because you're paying more principal sooner. So you pay less interest. That, again, is what it says here, eliminates debt in a shorter amount of time. You're paying less interest, and it increases your credit score because you're showing all those companies you can manage your debt and they're getting their money back. This is the option that I would recommend. This is the option that I help people do. To me, it's the only way to go. Credit card companies, loan companies, they all get their money sooner. You pay less interest, credit score goes up, everybody's happy. This to me is the best way that should happen. But most people don't understand this or were never taught this, so they don't know about it. But that's the purpose of doing this presentation. So with that, today we went through the similarities about rates and reasons why people use credit cards. We talked about credit card pros and cons, the record outstanding balances of being over $1 trillion, the credit card process, how companies prey on the young and the old, some examples of how to pay off or the time it takes to pay off your loans, and then 3 ways to pay off your balances. I'm going to open it up now for questions. I will put my website in the chat box. So I open it up now. Let me open up the chat box so I can put it in.